Now, catchphrases are often the creation of the new and younger generation. Now, these catchphrases fall out of usage primarily because the newer or the next or newer generation does not want to inherit their parents' phrases. For example, my parents would have used the phrase, "the cat's meow," to indicate someone or something is great or awesome. My generation replaced that phrase with "out of sight." And my understanding, Generation Z uses the word "slaps." Now, the word transfiguration, or its synonym, transformation, is not often part of our vocabulary today. Now, I cannot imagine my wife coming to the table with a beautifully prepared Filipino dish proclaiming that she has transformed the ingredients into this exotic dish. We might use it telling fairy tales to younger children. Someone was transformed into a princess like Cinderella, or a frog has been transformed into a prince. But even though it is not a common word to use, what the word signifies does happen often. Something is changed into something more beautiful or altered in some way, making it more awesome. Lent is a transformational season in the church. This is, of course, why we hear the story of the Transfiguration read to us today. The apostles are witnesses to this event, but they really didn't understand it, nor did they understand the reference to Jesus rising from the dead, the ultimate transformation that was to come. It would be a transformation that would change the world. Now, there are some hints for us in all the readings today about our own transformations during Lent and what we must do. In the first reading, Abram, later to be renamed Abraham by God, was directed by God to leave the comfort of the land of his kinsfolk, an endeavor that would be very difficult. However, Abram had faith in God, in his reliance that God would keep his promise of making him a great nation and blessing him. In fact, the communities on the face of the earth would find blessings in him. Now, the question is, how willing are we to have complete faith in God? Are we willing to suffer, to offer everything up we hold dear and put it in God's hands? Now, this handing over of our lives to God, this ability to trust that God will make all things right in the end, that there is a divine purpose behind everything that happens, is one of the things that we may need to cultivate in our repentance this Lent. The psalm today says, "Lord, let your mercy be on us as we place our trust in you." Do we keep our faith when we suffer? When our family suffers, even when there is death? That is the kind of faith we are being asked to develop. Nobody said that it was going to be easy. If we put that faith in God, nothing will separate us from the love of Christ. No hardship, persecution, hunger, poverty, or peril will be able to get us down or take God's love away from us. Faith can and does move mountains. So how do we develop this faith in ourselves this Lent? Perhaps we do it by practice, starting small. We take something that is worrying us and we place it in God's hands. We literally say to God, Lord, I give this to you. It is out of my control and influence. Do what you think best with it. Begin to make this a practice. The immediate reward could be a transformation. You may feel the anxiety or depression lifting because you know you are not alone. St. Paul says today, bear your share of hardship for the gospel with the strength that comes from God. The ability to transform those fears and anxieties will not necessarily come quickly or even easily, but it will come with practice. Let us ask God to break the chains that are not allowing us to give ourselves completely to God and His will. Just as Jesus had complete faith in the Father and was led to death, God's plan was to use that death in the greatest event known to mankind, our return to God's grace and kingdom. So let us journey this Lent with God, letting God lead the way, giving our will to God, even to sharing the sacrificial road that God had taken in Jesus. It takes great faith, but one that can be developed, practiced, and lived. And the possible transformations will not only be awesome, they will be the cat's meow. They will be out of sight. And yes, they will be the slaps.